Facial recognition will be used to unlock your digital identity, which is going to be a tool of control for the agendas that are coming down the pipeline.
Elements of that control are already with us.
Alexa, good morning. Good morning.
You are never alone in your home, and this is why. All your devices at home and all smart appliances, they are all connected on a wireless network. Many of these devices will have cameras, many will have microphones, and so they are monitoring everything all the time. Your smart appliances are communicating with the smart meter and sending it real-time usage data. If there's a Ring camera also in your home, a mesh network is formed, and all your devices are being tracked within the home, its location, its usage, and all the data is going to Amazon servers. When you leave your home, all modern vehicles are connected to the internet, so your automobile is being tracked all the time. When you're going under a string of smart LED poles and smart LED lights on the highway and in the streets of your towns and cities, those form a wireless network and are tracking your vehicle. They're tracking all the devices on you, from smartphones to smartwatches when you're walking on the streets. So data is being collected 24/7, continuously on every human being whenever you are within these wireless networks.
And it's obviously not good for health also because of all the electromagnetic radiation.
In the long term, the plan is to pretty much lock up humanity in smart cities, which is kind of a superset of a 15-minute city.
They've sold all the state and local governments and countries that smart cities are about sustainability and the good of the city. But in reality, the language from the UN and WEF and their white papers is all inverted. So, air monitoring is really about limiting mobility and no car ownership. Right? Surveillance, control via LED grid is why the smart lighting is there. Water management is about water rationing, noise pollution is about speed surveillance, traffic monitoring is about limiting mobility, and then, of course, energy conservation is all about rationing heat, electricity, and gasoline. Another concept one should be familiar with is called geofencing, and think of it as an invisible fence around you, where you cannot go beyond a certain point, and that will be related to your face recognition, digital identity, and access control. Your smart contracts, SoftBrick can turn off your digital currency beyond a certain point from your house. Our world has been turned into a digital panopticon.
That means you can be monitored, analyzed, managed, and monetized.
The more you see the details on how this system they're setting up is supposed to function, the more it starts to make sense as far as how they intend to control us. So it's not just going to be some physical barrier locking us into our 15-minute smart city. They won't even need that. They'll give you an imaginary boundary, and if you travel outside of that, your bank account no longer works. And we all know that the rationing they're going to give us on our resources is just going to get smaller and smaller with time. Just think about it. As of right now, they're not even trying to give the impression that they're going to attempt to meet our basic needs. And it hasn't even been implemented yet. It's already been stated multiple times that we're essentially going to get one mouthful of meat per person per day. And that's what they're telling us right now, while we actually still have a chance to fight back against this. So how low are they actually going to adjust all these rationing figures when we're completely under their control and we can't do anything about it? We absolutely cannot allow this to happen. This one has to be the hill to die on.
What is Palantir? Can you explain what this is a little bit?
Palantir is a CIA cutout. So in 2001, after 9/11, they created this it's basically artificial intelligence or an algorithm to interpret these vast amounts of data. The intelligence community takes all this massive amounts of data, emails, phone calls, text messages. Palantir interprets all of it into insights that are usable by law enforcement. And so in 2001, after 9/11, they took what was a CIA program and they just effectively privatized it to bypass the Constitution. You know, Constitution protects people's privacy, but a private company doesn't have to play by the same rules.
So 2001, you're saying that the CIA was spying on people and collecting all this data, and then to get around public oversight, they sort of transferred this into a private company?
Right. So Palantir is a firm that creates usable insights based on vast amounts of data. It's a private entity to circumvent the Constitution. They're founded in 2001. Until 2008, they only worked for the CIA. And the CIA actually provided startup money through their venture capital arm, In-Q-Tel. So they provided all the money for it, and they created all the products. So Peter Thiel, Alex Karp, Joe Lonsdale, they were at Langley, Virginia at the CIA headquarters making everything for the CIA as a so-called contractor. And then after that, they branched out into everything. So they identified the Capitol rioters on January 6th. They were identifying who wasn't vaccinated in 2021.
What were they doing with people that weren't vaccinated?
Just to identify contact tracing who had COVID and who was spreading it to everybody using Bluetooth, and then identifying then who wasn't vaccinated for the purpose of these vaccine passports. You know, in states like New York or in New York City, they wouldn't let people into restaurants if they didn't have the vaccine. So this was going to be like, they wanted to identify everybody that didn't have the card.
Yeah.
Using Bluetooth, you said?
That's for identifying who has COVID.
Interesting.
Because if you got COVID and you tested positive, they would look at your phone, and your phone has Bluetooth, and they'd see all the other phones that touched it. So they can identify everybody that might have COVID. That's the contact tracing. It's basically just like what Ted Kaczynski warned about. This is the classic panopticon surveillance state. And so Palantir was founded by Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel funds all the new right projects. You know, in 2022, he was the single largest individual donor in the cycle. So he put $30 million behind J.D. Vance, Blake Masters.
It's all starting to come together, isn't it? So they circumvent constitutional protections by going the private route. Then they start getting their hooks into all these politicians by pumping money into their campaigns so they all owe them a favor. I think anyone with an inkling of common sense could have predicted that there was going to be a massive political shift in 2024. The left just went so far off the deep end over the last half decade that what they were doing just simply wasn't sustainable. Something had to change. We were sinking, and the public was starting to rise up. So of course he's going to start funding the guys on the right. It was pretty obvious to anyone who was looking that they were the ones that were about to be in charge of everything. But it really makes you wonder if all of that was the plan from the start. In a lot of ways, things do appear to be getting better, but a lot of that's really just surface level. To anyone who's paying attention, especially to this digital ID stuff, we're still pointed in the wrong direction and moving at a breakneck pace. And we all know that these people are constantly playing on both sides of things. I'm really starting to wonder just how much of what we see going on today was devised in some closed-door meeting 10 or 15 years ago. I pretty much don't trust anyone though, so maybe I'm just being too cautious. What are you guys thinking about all of this? Surely I'm not the only one with that suspicion. Hey, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to drop your theories and your comments in the comment section down below.
So Hollywood is about to lose its mind. Meet the very first AI actress, Tilly Norwood. Tilly is about to change Hollywood forever. She's considered an AI tool/AI actress. Think about this part. They don't have to pay her a dime. So the union that represents actors and actresses in Hollywood has already made a statement, and they're not happy about what's going on. Think about this. They can actually make this AI tool/AI actress do whatever they want. So the days of big name Hollywood celebrities demanding XYZ to do certain scenes, she can now do that. So the days of I'm not comfortable shooting that scene or doing that type of scene are over, because Tilly Norwood can do that scene for you. So another thing to consider, is this going to be the future of Hollywood productions, let's say in the next 5 to maybe 10 years? As a matter of fact, take a look at this.
Hollywood actors are speaking out, responding to reports that multiple talent agencies are interested in signing an AI actress.
I'm built on everything that came before me.
Tilly Norwood might seem like any other aspiring actress. She has an Instagram page showing off her screen tests alongside candid moments.
Tilly Norwood, 100% AI generated.
So after watching that, what are your thoughts? I mean, think about actors and actresses today, how they have to enhance them because of age. They're human beings, correct? These are AI tools, AI generated actors and actresses. You can keep them at whatever age you want, or make them age if you need them to. So I guess my question to you is, after seeing and hearing all of this, what are your thoughts? Is Hollywood in trouble? Is this the next generation of movie stars in the making?
I can't believe this. I knew that this was going to happen eventually, but I thought we were still at least a fairly decent ways out from this actually happening. I had to look this up and see just how realistic this looked so I could basically determine if this was a nothing story or if it looked like it was something that was genuinely about to upset the film industry. Look at the actual video of this thing acting.
3 seasons and a podcast.
Bragging about getting gigs and battling a villain. Meet the latest creation from the world of artificial intelligence.
Tilly Norwood, 100% AI generated.
The European company Particle 6 is presenting her as an actress. The CEO says she's been meeting with entertainment companies, and Norwood could be represented by a talent agency in the next few months. Real-life actors are outraged. Here's what Emily Blunt told a Variety podcast.
Good Lord. We're screwed. That is really, really scary. Come on, agencies, don't do that.
The AI has an unfair advantage, says Whoopi Goldberg.
Bring it on. Yeah. Because you can always tell them from us.
Taking up the fight, too, is SAG-AFTRA, the union representing actors in the U.S. It released a statement saying creativity is and should remain human-centered, and that this is jeopardizing performer livelihoods. ACTRA, the union in Canada, is pushing back on Norwood, too.
It is 100% not an actor. It's an amalgamation of probably hundreds, if not thousands, of professional actors, performers, who have not been compensated at all for this.
The unions have already fought and won some AI protections for actors, including consent and compensation for reproductions of their likeness. As for synthetic performers like Norwood, studios would have to negotiate with the unions. Either way, AI isn't going away. This actor and AI filmmaker in Toronto thinks content with performers like Norwood should have their own genre.
Who knows, maybe down the depths of look, if you're scrolling next time on Netflix, there's like action, there's drama, there's horror, and then there might be a completely new category like AI.
Meanwhile, Particle 6's CEO has responded to the backlash. In a statement, she said Norwood is not a replacement for a human, and that AI is another way to build stories. Magda Gebre-Selassie, CBC News, Toronto.
Personally, I don't think this is really that big of an issue, and I would absolutely rather watch something with a real actor in it. But one of my biggest problems with Hollywood today are that none of the characters in these movies seem to have a soul. But it's not really the fault of the actors. They keep writing these movies that make absolutely no sense because the whole point of the film is just to push their ideology. And so the characters in these movies do things that no sane person would even consider. So a movie with an AI actor is just going to be that same thing but dialed up to 10. They aren't going to be worth watching anyways. All they're really doing here is killing their own industry. And the more you look into it, the more you see a lot of these celebrities are just sick, demented individuals. So I'm finding it quite difficult to drum up any amount of sympathy for the fact that they're about to lose their jobs to AI. If anything, I think this is just a massive misstep by the film industry, and they'll slowly get replaced by independent filmmakers the same way the mass media slowly got replaced by independent online reporters. I'm kind of glad to see this happening. Hollywood never puts anything out worth watching nowadays anyway. I say, let's make room for the little guys to start getting an audience.
Grab your friends, grab a date, grab your tinfoil hats, because an alien spaceship is gonna be in our skies come end of November, beginning December. Yes, it's the infamous 3-Eye Atlas, and it just seems like the closer it gets, the more unexplainable it becomes. You know, the interstellar object making its way towards us that professors and media outlets are all insisting might be alien technology? Well, a literal YouTuber has taken probably the clearest photo of the object yet, somehow better than anything NASA has shown us so far. And let me tell you, this thing does not not look like a comet. So sometime in the beginning of October, 3i Atlas has officially been hidden from view for us here on Earth as it passes behind the sun, only to emerge around the end of November, and be at its most visible point from Earth mid-December at its closest approach to our planet. But right before it went behind the sun, it passed by Mars, which NASA has an active satellite orbiting, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, MRO. And NASA previously mentioned it's reallocating a bunch of its space telescopes and satellites to observe 3i Atlas as it passes by, of which included MRO. But just recently, they put up a notice on their site saying, due to the lapse in federal government funding, NASA is not updating this website. Conveniently, just right before the expected Mars flyby of 3i Atlas. Does this mean they're not going to be taking a photo of it anymore? Whatever this means, it's just incredibly questionable timing. And every photo NASA has released of it so far has just been a blurry, pixelated blob that anyone can dismiss as just a comet, which it might be. But somehow, amateur astronomers are taking better pics of it from here on Earth than the biggest space agency in the world. YouTuber Dobsonian Power used his backyard telescope to take this photo of 3i Atlas, which is honestly pretty wild if you ask me. I mean, the shot is fairly blurry too, but we can clearly make out a shape that is quite angular, maybe even somewhat, I don't know, triangle shaped. And digitally enhanced, this sure doesn't look like no comet to me. Comets are supposed to be fairly round and maybe lumpy, but this has like, I don't know, sharp edges and long protrusions coming out of it. Here it is, reconstructed with AI. And I know this is AI, it's far from accurate, but... And why is this still more clear than anything NASA has given us with their billion-dollar telescopes so far? Because the news coming out about this comet is just non-stop. Like, there's a new update every single day, with alleged leaks from European astronomers showing internal data that is not congruent with that of a comet, who also admitted the government is intentionally covering up the truth of 3i Atlas, albeit this was an anonymous post on a certain website that shall not be named. Another leaked NASA memo allegedly claims its acceleration is not consistent with Newtonian predictions, meaning it's speeding up and slowing down on its own, and that its surface appears to be made of a highly reflective composite material. Professor Avi Loeb also revealed the object is glowing from the front rather than from behind, as is expected from a comet, and also seems that it might be emanating its own light, which led some, including him, to suggest that it may be a nuclear-powered craft. Now, more recent news came out that 3i Atlas is massive, at least 33 billion tons, which is much bigger than we previously thought. And according to scientists, naturally occurring objects in interstellar space are just not supposed to be this big. Mass spectroscopy analysis reveal it's also rich in nickel and poor in iron, which is more like a manufactured alloy than it is a natural rock. Its trajectory is almost impossible to have occurred naturally, within 5 degrees of our solar system's orbital plane and passing by Mars, Venus, and Jupiter along its path, going directly behind the sun from Earth at its closest approach to the sun, which Professor Loeb stated the odds of this trajectory happening at random are like 1 in 20,000. 3i Atlas will emerge back into view for us on Earth sometime mid to end November, and then be at its most visible by Earth-based telescopes during its closest approach to us here on Earth in the beginning to mid-December. You are not going to be able to see it with the naked eye, and honestly, you're probably going to need a high-powered professional telescope to look at it yourself. But hey, if it does turn out to be artificial, it'll be pretty wild knowing an alien craft is drifting right above our heads at the end of this year. That is, if it doesn't reroute its path towards Earth when it's hidden behind the sun to invade our planet. Yeah, let's hope not.
I have no doubt that the reason NASA isn't updating that website is because of this government shutdown. They're just a massive money laundering operation that lies to the public at every turn, so all they're trying to do is sway public opinion to make the American people think that it was in our best interest for Congress to pass that bill that funded all that woke garbage. They're a part of the problem. So that message on their website, it's just them doing their part to help push the agenda. Also, they can keep stealing our tax dollars and lying to us. But besides all that, the one thing I found very interesting about that image that YouTube astrologer took is it reminded me of something that I've seen many times before. Is it just me, or does that look eerily similar?
October 3rd, 2025, right now. Multiple spacecraft at Mars are pointing their cameras at something that shouldn't exist. An object streaming 150 kilograms of gas per second with zero recoil. Like watching a cannon fire without kickback. A violation so fundamental that when scientists first saw the data, they assumed their instruments were broken. They weren't. Harvard's Avi Loeb has rated it a 6 out of 10 on his alien technology scale. But that's not why you're here. You're here because 2 days ago, someone claiming to work with the European Space Agency leaked something on 4chan. Technical, detailed, frustrated. They described a formal working group that has tried and failed to make this object fit any known class of natural body. Quote, "This position is no longer tenable, and the silence from leadership on the cognitive dissonance this requires is becoming a serious professional issue." They talk about chemistry that shouldn't be possible. Nickel tetracarbonyl, a synthetic industrial compound streaming off a rock that's supposedly billions of years old. Dust so strange it took a week of recalibration before they'd accept the measurements were real. And a mass problem. 33 billion tons compressed into 3 kilometers. Statistical odds so bad that either our models of the galaxy are wrong by a factor of 10,000, or this thing isn't debris at all. But here's what makes it worse. In 26 days, it disappears behind the sun, a perfect window, hidden from every telescope on Earth. And when it comes back in December, we'll know if it changed course. Because if it did, nothing natural can explain that. There's a theory, one that sounds like science fiction but explains every single anomaly, the outgassing with no thrust, the synthetic chemistry, the thermal impossibility, an object with its own internal engine, not powered by the sun, powered by something from the Big Bang itself. And it's testable. 2 predictions, both falsifiable, both coming within the next 3 months. This is 3I Atlas, the third interstellar object we've ever detected, and the first one that's made scientists question whether they are looking at a comet or something pretending to be one. By the end of this, you'll understand why some researchers are no longer sleeping well, why the trajectory looks designed, why the timing is too perfect, and what happens if the data keeps refusing to cooperate. Something is happening right now. Not tomorrow, not in some distant future scenario where we finally build the right telescope or send the right probe. Right now, today, October 3rd, 2025. At this exact moment, humanity has multiple spacecraft positioned around Mars, and every single one of them is attempting to photograph the same object. The object is called 3I Atlas, the third confirmed interstellar visitor to our solar system, and at 4 universal time this morning, it passed within 29 million kilometers of Mars. That's the closest it will come to any planet during its entire journey through our cosmic neighborhood.
You know, now that I think about it, I almost wonder if there's a different reason that they're not updating that page where they're supposed to be reporting on this. Maybe, since this is close enough to Earth that amateur astronomers are actually getting photographs of it, maybe they're just worried that if they put something out, it will conflict with what other people are getting photographs of. Maybe they've made a calculated move here to not put out their typical CG renderings because it will be easy to determine if it's something that's been fabricated. Maybe they're worried about putting something out and then some guy in his backyard with a high-powered telescope gets a picture of it and everybody realizes that they're giving us fake images. Maybe they're waiting for everyone else to get their pictures first. Then they can swoop in afterward with their more professional-looking images and try to steer the narrative. What do y'all think? Personally, I find it hilarious that this is supposed to be the very first time in all known history that we're actually going to have a supposed alien craft flying by our planet that's close enough to get an image of, and NASA tells us, sorry, we can't keep you updated on this because our funding dried up. Seriously? It doesn't cost over $60 million a day to keep your website updated. That is absolutely a garbage lie of an excuse.
Guys, we may have just witnessed history. Yesterday, 22-year-old inventor Julian Brown ran the first ever muscle car on plastiline. His 110-octane gasoline he converted from plastic waste. As the live stream from Atlanta showed, he turned on the car to demonstrate there was no fuel inside. And sure enough, it didn't start. He then filled the car with a canister of plastiline, pressed the button, and the rest is history. Now, to be clear, Julian Brown didn't invent pyrolysis. Converting plastic to fuel is a well-established process that's been around for decades. But he did invent the world's first solar continuous microwave pyrolysis reactor, which fundamentally changes how expensive and renewable this process is. And he did all of this without the backing of large corporations, and he was able to build this in his own backyard with a bunch of scraps! Now, he says his reason for doing all of this is to send a message to the world that people are no longer going to wait for big corporations or big government to do what needs to be done.
Because this is our world. This is our Earth.
and we care and we protect it.
In fact, in May, he even got his plastic diesel scientifically tested and it passed with flying colors. Stepp even went as far to say that Julian's diesel had better emissions than regular diesel.
I thought it was surprisingly well distilled. I thought it was surprisingly clean as well for plastic. And it blew my mind that plastic could be redistilled into diesel.
He says his end goal is to get this in the world and where it needs to be.
Let's get it in the world. Let's get it implemented how it needs to be, because that's the whole point of why I started this. And so that's the strive and the move, without a doubt, to get this where it needs to be.
This is awesome. We've seen so many inventors over the years coming out with these revolutionary products, and then they just fade into obscurity. You never hear anything else about them. And with the way this guy's making these videos, the way he's documented the whole process, I'm betting that anyone who's even remotely mechanically inclined could probably sit down, watch a few of these videos, and backwards engineer this thing at their house. But if he's really doing this simply for the betterment of humanity, I think his smartest move right now is to just post his manufacturing process and all the details necessary to keep it running on as many websites as he possibly can. Then there wouldn't really be any point in the oil executives putting a bounty on his head. The cat would already be out of the bag. But I know if I were him, I'd really be having trouble sleeping at night. I bet he wakes up most days wondering, is this going to be the last? He's about to put a dent in a lot of people's wallets.
You want to talk about a conspiracy? What about a double conspiracy, triple, quadruple conspiracy? What's an event that just recently changed the world? Charlie Kirk, right? He was a part of Turning Point, and I do believe language matters here. So what turning point did I see upon this? Well, I did notice this. A censorship of a certain topic seems to have been now lifted, where I'm scrolling and my feed is showing days and days worth of criticism of a certain people. Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, mainstream content creators, are now covering the criticism of this people. It's almost as if they want us to now know what's going on. As if they need us to rise against them. As if it's a part of their prophecy or something. Wait, all nations will rise against? Whoa, hey, hold on a second. So what if that's the whole idea behind this turning point? What if this entire plan was a double, triple conspiracy because they need us to rise up and they need to create a certain terrorist organization in order to carry out their prophetic plans? Because in the end, from their perspective, all nations rise against and God helps wipe out everybody besides them. Who has major nuclear control right now? Wait a minute.
I've made it a point to keep my opinion out of the Charlie stuff. There are just too many different conspiracies floating around out there. Some say it was this group, some say it was that group, some people say he's still alive and the whole thing was some big fabrication done with holograms. There are just too many theories out there right now, and honestly, if you just pick one at random and start digging into it, there's probably some evidence to back it up. I'm just kind of waiting for the smoke to clear so I can see what the actual details are so I have something to base an opinion off of. I wanted to add this though because this is the first time I've heard this take. Just think about all the red heifer stuff and the building of the third temple. The seemingly obvious attempts at ushering in end times prophecy. This makes a ton of sense. And I'm not saying that I think this is what's going on, but I wanted to get this idea out there so it can start to be explored a little more. I thought this was an absolutely brilliant take, and I don't know how exactly this sways my opinion on what took place, and honestly, I don't know that I even have an opinion yet because every detail that we get from the authorities gets immediately refuted with hard evidence. But this may be a good thread to pull on as far as the motive of things go. What do y'all think? And be careful in the comments on this one. I'm not trying to get some heated discussions going on what people think actually took place. I'm just curious to know if any of you think that it may be possible that this somehow tied into the motive of things. But guys and gals, that's the end of our clips for the day. I'm going to go ahead and end the video right there. I hope you enjoyed these clips we watched together today. I'll be back tomorrow with another video. I hope you come back to join me. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to drop your theories and your comments in the comment section down below. But guys and gals, I hope everyone has a great, safe, fantastic rest of your day. And I will see you all tomorrow.